Hi, this is Dana with Dana Meyer Consulting, and I have a great concept for you that I'd like to share. I'm actually in an airport right now, so we'll see how the sound works on this. I'm in Florida, and I just finished up a really amazing workshop with 30 great leaders, and we had so many things that we covered and conversations that opened up that really inspired me to share even more and more of what I would sometimes call my Dana-isms, because in just a short period of time, what I realized was that people were walking around mimicking some of the things that we talked about. And one in particular that I think is extremely helpful, valuable, and embodies a lot is this concept of walking our talk. When we talk about leaders and employees and the disconnect that sometimes exists between leaders and employees, a lot of times it comes down to the basics. It's trust, it's respect, it's doing what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it. And while these concepts can be really vague and nebulous and it's hard to pin down, when I am teaching, one thing that I do a lot is I talk about walking your talk versus when there's a gap. And when a leader is not doing what they say they're going to do, it's kind of they're out of integrity. And what employees judge the most is not the fact that they're expecting their leaders to be perfect or that they need to be perfect all the time, but when you consistently move from doing what you say you're going to do, this is what your reputation becomes. And that gap is a trust gap. It's a credibility gap. It's a gap in your reputation. And so when that does happen, and we're all human, leaders are busy, they're not intentionally doing anything wrong, but it happens. We miss a meeting, we miss a phone call, we miss a deadline, we don't share information, we catch our employees by surprise, and these things add up over time. What I'd like to suggest as a way to move your reputation and credibility more in alignment so that your words and your actions are really in alignment with what you're all about is to think about times when you say, oh, I'll get to that, and you know that there's a 50-50 chance you may not. So really be careful. When you say you're going to do something, do it. If you don't think you're able to do it, say, I can't get to this week. I can get to it next week. If you need it this week, I'd like to recommend that perhaps you give it to this person, or can you scope it down into the part that you absolutely need from me? And that you're probably more likely to be able to deliver versus the whole thing. So that's just one example. Another example is when leaders are maybe having behind closed door conversations about topics that employees are concerned about or interested in knowing what the results are. Oftentimes there's things that, we as leaders are not able to share with employees because it will just create more churn in the system until a decision is made. But what happens is the universe abhors a vacuum. And what's happening is, until they hear from their leaders personally, they're going to fill in the blanks themselves. And what happens is, instead of that information coming from you, they're getting it on social media, they're hearing it from friends, they're hearing it from people that maybe live in their neighborhood, that are hearing rumors that, about that company. And that is what creates a credibility gap, not just with an individual leader, but with leadership in general. And this is such a common challenge that I see companies and leaders struggle with. And what I find is that when I use this concept with teams to talk about leaders that are struggling with walking their talk and, being in integrity, everyone gets it. Like, it's just something that clicks for folks. So what I would ask is, one, awareness is always the first place to start with ourselves. If we're not in integrity, if we're not being really careful about walking our talk and modeling that for others, we have no business standing in judgment or pointing fingers at someone else. Because again, this looks strange a little bit, but pointing fingers at someone else, there are 3 pointing back at me. So I need to deal with these 3 fingers in my own work before I can point a finger at anyone. And people also judge that. it's like you're saying I'm this way, but I hate to tell you this, there's three fingers pointing back at you that you do the same thing. So think about little things that you know you've been missing the ball on. And one, apologize. Say, you know what, there have been a couple of things recently where I know I've missed the ball, or you really needed me and I haven't been there for you. And say, I really want to figure out how we can work on that so that we can make the best use of our time together, perhaps find other people that can give you the information you need in a more timely manner so that you can get the job done that you need. Again, all this stuff comes down to basic conversations. But when those conversations don't happen, or when we don't follow up on the promises that we made in those conversations, this is how you're showing up. And what I would hope for all of us is that we work mindfully each day to be in better alignment with doing what we say we're going to do. So with that, I hope you find this tip helpful. And again, it's just really invigorating every time I get to work with new leaders, because at the end of the day, our industries are different, our locations are different, and yet it's our people challenges that are the most challenging for all of us. And that's what I am passionate about, helping leaders to be more successful no matter what your business is, no matter what size, because I know these are the issues that teams and leaders struggle with the most. So with that, I hope you find this helpful, and good luck in walking your talk. This is Dana signing off.